It's the Rip City Wrap-Up, brought to you by Dick Hanna Subaru. Believe in nice. Here are your hosts, Tyree Smith, Danny Marang, and Joe Simons.
I will be randomly gripping this throughout the night because I have nothing else to do with my anger after a good Blazers home game at the Motor Center. Welcome in to episode 72 of the Rip City Wrap-Up, sponsored by the good people at Dick Hanna Subaru. Danny Marang in the pink. I'm loving it. Nice to see that.
Sun's out.
There we go. Guns out.
Joe
that too. Joe Simons with the little open-toe shirt a little bit.
Hi.
Feeling nice out
Good
there.
evening. It's 80 degrees. We set a record. What a day here in the Rip City, huh?
Quite warm.
Big time. 122 to 111. Unfortunately, the Blazers fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers at home. They drop to 32-41 on the year. Make sure you good people are using the hashtag RCWrapUp to join in a conversation. And what's your guys' thoughts on the Blazers play-in chances? What's your guys' thoughts on tonight's game? Danny, Joe, I'm angry. Do I have a very valid reason to be angry?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No,
And I knew that we were going to say that.
The Cleveland team is very good. You saw them do the same thing Boston did, but just in a different style. The defining moment of the night was Darius Garland going for 9 points in less than 2 minutes and slamming the door shut. That is a veteran team. They're, incredibly balanced, even without Donovan Mitchell. And I opened up the press conference tonight asking Chauncey Billups, Evan Mobley and Darius Garland are incredibly efficient tonight, but they didn't get those points easy. So are you happy with that? And when you're talking to your guys, like, are you okay with, that kind of outcome? And how do you kind of teach through that and walk through that? Because this thing is, Toumani Camara and Deni Avdija made Evan Mobley and Darius Garland work, but you tip your cap because Evan Mobley and Darius Garland are all-stars, and they overcame that. Remember, Garland was 4 of 16 in the first matchup. He was unstoppable.
I'm not worried about those guys. Those guys are going to do their thing. Can we talk about Ty Jerome?
Well, look, man, there's a reason.
25 points.
That thug? Yeah, let's get to it.
25 points in the game in Cleveland, 25 points here tonight. Yes, Danny, I know what you're going to say. Ty Jerome is a nice player, but my guy averages 12 points a game. His ability to light up Portland is simultaneously interesting,
Thuggish behavior.
frustrating, disappointing. It just seemed as though, like the Boston game the other night, whenever there was an opportunity for Portland to really get back in this game, Cleveland would do their thing. And it was especially true. There was a fast break. It was 106-104. The situation occurs.
Shaedon Sharpe gets the. Look, to be clear, and this isn't some homer thing. Shaedon got smacked.
He did.
He got smacked, and it was clear as day. You could see it from press row. I can see it 20 rows up. It wasn't a bad officiated game. It was an inconsistently officiated game. And I don't think.
And the late whistles, bro. There were so many, the play would finish, and there would be a beat, and then a second beat, and then the whistle would be blown.
Two things can be true at the same time.
It took way too long.
It wasn't the total fouls in this game. You had 18 called against the Cavs, 15 called against the Blazers. I like the fact that they let them play for the most part. It was an incredibly physical game. Toumani Camara was very physical with Darius Garland. I thought Klingon and Jared Allen just pretty much beat each other up all game.
That was really fun. What a fun matchup.
Yeah, and I think Donovan learned. We talked about him in a little bit. I thought he learned a ton from his first matchup where he fouled out in 12 minutes. But I thought the inconsistency of when they were calling fouls. Honestly, it was the very first possession of the game, I believe. Jared Allen got mauled by Donovan twice on the first possession, and there was no call. Then Donovan came down and got a foul called immediately on some pretty soft contact by Jared Allen. I was like, I'm not sure how that's a good indicator for this game, but it ended up being exactly how the game shook out. But
set a weird tone for the game.
Yeah, it really did. All in all, I love that the Blazers were aggressive all night. Shaedon Sharpe was incredibly aggressive. His shot chart tonight, 1 of 5 from 3, 8 of 20 from the field. But there was maybe 2 shots all night that I didn't like from Shaedon. I thought Shaedon was going downhill all night long, aggressive. And yes, do you want him to shoot better from the floor? Absolutely. But this is as weird as it sounds, this is a growth game because it encourages the process of hey, look, you got there. You had finishes. He had the lob opportunity, which you never see him miss.
So you think this reinforces the things that we've been calling for, which is stop settling for the 3, don't do the hezzy, pause, shoot, get your butt to the basket because you're so good at it. And he did. And so even if he's not converting, you think he's getting enough positive reinforcement from the process rather than the result.
Chauncey Billups said as much in the postgame. Is look back at Shaedon Sharpe finishing a couple months ago. He was struggling. Now look where he's at. He's an elite finisher. And I will take that every single night, the aggressiveness. That's the thing is, because Shaedon's skill is not something that you question. It's the mentality. It's the aggression. And when those two come together on a given night, the aggression and the skill, that's when you see it really start to materialize. Like he finished like 1 of 5 from 3. Of his 5 threes, there's only one that I was like, come on, you said a little bit there. He attacked Evan Mobley. He attacked Jared Allen, which is the thing that I've kind of been watching over the last 6 weeks is when he gets switches, a lot of times he settles. Tonight he didn't. And look, you've got 2 great defenders in Allen and Mobley, and you've got great help side defenders on that team. And that's why he missed a couple shots tonight when you're talking about at the rim. But otherwise, I liked what I saw from Shaedon Sharpe tonight.
No, 18 points. And I mean, only one thing that I hated, it was perfect placement almost by that pass. The alley-oop he missed. I knew you were going to
quite have it in his hand. It was in his fingertips. He didn't really have control of it.
He converted the second one that was further out. That was the crazy thing.
Just not a clean catch getting it to the basket. The thing that I point to in this game, 27 three-point attempts for Cleveland. And they're not a team that shoots a lot of threes traditionally.
Portland nearly doubled them up.
Portland shot 52 threes today.
Good gracious.
I asked Chauncey about that in the postgame, and the framing of the question was, let me double check the numbers tonight because I want to make sure they updated. Yes, so they finished with 24% of their shots. Less than a quarter of their shots came at the rim tonight, which off the top of my head, I'm almost certain is a season low. Less than a quarter. This is a team that is the #1 rim percentage shot team in the league. So for those wondering, that puts them in the 21st percentile on a given night. So if you're talking about over the course of, 1,860 games in the NBA season, this is in the bottom 25% of games of shot attempts at the rim.
And they were 23 of 48 from 2, so nearly 50%. And they were 32% from 3. So was Cleveland just doing a thing that forced them to go inside?
Mobley and Allen were making them. I mean, they look. You got 2 7-footers. One of them's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and Evan Mobley. Jared Allen is no slouch. You got good help defenders. Even though Garland's tiny, he's got great hands. He's always knocking at the ball. And if you're not tight with the ball, how many times tonight did you see a ball get knocked out of bounds, whether it was off a Blazer or off a Cav, underneath the rim on a drive or on a catch?
Frequently.
They're very, very, very handsy, much like OKC. They're very disruptive.
That second quarter, there was a lot of moving, a lot of turnovers.
And what was crazy about the second quarter, it was an ugly second quarter. What was crazy about that second quarter was it was just that the Blazers couldn't hit shots. They got looks. And you look at the way that quarter ended up, was the final 27-19. That basically decided the game.
Portland had 9 turnovers in the entire game.
Yeah.
7 of them were in the second quarter. And to your point about the shots being available, they were very much available in the fourth quarter down the stretch. If Portland was making some of these threes, Tyree, they would have had a real opportunity to steal the game from Cleveland. It felt like even when Cleveland was up like 4 to 7 points, that Cleveland was up closer to something like 10 to 12. Like it never really felt like, even though the margin was close, that Portland was in the game. Like the score just wasn't indicative of how it felt. Like if you weren't if it was the old days and the score bug wasn't up there, as I say, with this new giant beautiful scoreboard behind me. Look at this.
Nobody said nothing yet.
Gorgeous. Yes.
We just got it.
City Liquidators. Gorgeous.
We'll do some more with the next season. Don't worry.
It's beautiful. But the opportunity was there, and Portland was not able to take advantage. And it's disappointing because it felt like this is one you could steal. And we're going to go into the play-in machinations a little bit later. I have a whole thing prepared, a whole scree that I'm going to go on a little bit later. But yeah, for tonight, it's not really, to your point to open the show, Tyree. First of all, I take back what I say. Feel how you want to feel, young man. Feel.
Now we talk.
Live your truth. I just, get the stress out. To me, if we were to look at this homestand and say, out of the 4 games with Memphis, Denver, Boston, Cleveland, you go 2-2, everybody would have signed up for that.
Yeah.
Everybody signs up for a 2-2. Like, we're like, hey, if Portland can get one of those, it'll be good. And now...
And you were competitive in those 2 losses.
You were.
And the 2 best teams in the Eastern Conference said nope in the fourth quarter.
You haven't, gotten run off the court anytime recently. So you have to feel, and we'll talk more about the road trip coming up, but you have to feel somewhat encouraged. I know it stings in the moment with the losses, but I think when we wake up tomorrow, it's going to be another, at least nice morning. Dave Zaleski told us the world's going to end there
Basically,
in the afternoon. It's going to be batten down the hatches in the afternoon.
3 p.m. Tell them when 3 p.m. start. It doesn't end in the morning.
Do your work beforehand.
Yes. Do the lawn care before that. But no, I truthfully don't feel that bad about this game because, again, it's another good effort. Portland continuing to try hard. Like, these dudes try, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's no give up in this team, and that's what I really enjoy about them. And I think until they're literally mathematically eliminated, Tyree, you're going to see this effort from here on out.
And I want to talk a little bit on those threes really quick. You talk about the points and you talk about the attempts. I mean, one of the reasons that, Portland didn't win was Ant just wasn't on fire tonight.
Ant had a horrible night.
1 of 10 from the three-pointers. That contributed. So take away his 10 threes. Probably take away 5 threes that Scoot didn't make. Now you're getting in kind of the range that Portland is used to when shooting the threes. I think because Ant wasn't able to shoot that well tonight, only had 7 points, that also contributed to the team feeling a little more pressure to shoot the threes, because whenever Mobley started to kind of figure it out and we weren't pressuring him as much in the paint, he was almost automatic in the offensive rebounds he was getting off of Donovan. I mean, I understand the three-pointers tonight. So I'm not as angry anymore now we kind of talked about it and laid it out there, but I don't see this as a game where anybody, any fan, anybody watching as a Blazers fan should feel anything. Should just be like, all right, we'll go on to the next one, which is Thursday.
You know what I liked about this game tonight was Donovan had a big night. I want to make sure we spend some time on him, but there was a back and forth between Toumani Camara and Darius Garland almost all night. I mean, they were chirping each other from the open, and it wasn't nasty. It was competitiveness. And Darius Garland is one of the guys that was on record. Jason Quick of The Athletic, when he wrote his profile on two and his defense, was like, I believe the line was, you just tip your hat to him. That's what Darius said about Toumani, his ability to pick up 94 feet. And Two hasn't really been doing that lately. But did you notice what he did all night tonight? He made sure Darius Garland felt his pressure. And to DG's credit, he worked and he worked and he worked all night long, running Toumani into screen after screen after screen. Stop, start, get the ball back, working a DHO, swing, reload. Like, Two wore him like a cheap suit, and DG delivered. And I think you could see Two like, man, what do I got to do to stop this guy? But I think that's a really, really, really good and big lesson for Two, in that some nights, even your best effort, and he played him incredibly well, some nights you get got. But the best in the league, some nights great defense just isn't enough.
I understand why people are pessimistic about Cleveland's chances to beat Boston in the playoffs, because Boston's been there. Mm-hmm. Boston has not had a great regular season, but you could argue any regular season where you're in the top 2 of your conference as a defending champ is a successful regular season, which is what they're going to be.
Especially in 2025.
I just think that Cleveland has an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals. I really, really do. I just think there's too much of a variable with the injury health for Boston.
Porzingis is a big one.
Is always the Mario question mark box. You have no idea what's in that thing.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, yeah, Boston's the favorite. If he's not, I think it's more of a toss-up. And you see Cleveland is so dangerous. Like, we haven't seen Donovan Mitchell play the Portland Trailblazers this season. You see how good Cleveland still is. Mm-hmm. And to Portland's credit, they took Cleveland's best shot without Donovan Mitchell twice, and they looked very competent on the floor. I just think Cleveland is a exceptional basketball team, and you heard Chauncey say it. I don't feel bad about this. Cleveland's just a better basketball team than Portland. That's okay. Like, if you're to pull back.
I know that bothers some fans, but
it shouldn't, because like, best case scenario, if you were to sit down as a Blazer fan and rank the 30 NBA teams, do you have Portland ahead of Cleveland? No. If you're being generous, you have Portland like 17, and it's more like 20 to 21.
Yeah, we like reality, though. And if you're being reality, you're not even. Are you even putting them anywhere close to Cleveland?
No. They're a couple rungs ahead of them. And shout out Kenny Atkinson, who pregame and pregame media availability was asked about Portland and what was the difference was, and Atkinson flat out said, he goes, "We got lucky. We should have lost to them last game." And I told my guys that when I went back and watched the film of the first matchup, I came away going, yeah, we shouldn't have won that game. And I don't think he was doing that just because Portland media was in the room, because you go back and you watch that game, the difference in that game, and I think it was a more exacerbated version of it tonight, was the veteranness of a team. Darius Garland getting 9 points in 2 minutes and going, boom, this is over. Like, that's what Dame used to do to guys. You know what I mean? Like, you knew whose time it was. And Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, they do that for this team night in, night out. And that's something that comes through getting your scars. And that's what Portland is going through right now. They're getting their first batch of scars. It's not your playoff scars. It's not even your play-in scars. But it's the first real competitive basketball, meaningful basketball a lot of these guys have played. And you have to cut no one gets deep in the playoffs without cutting their teeth on this stuff.
Well, you know what? You can get deep in the snow if you drive a Subaru. Hey, Dick and a Subaru, Joe.
Oh, guys. It's a whole lot of love month.
It's a whole lot of love.
At Dick Hanna Subaru. Right now, get a special 2.9% APR for 72 months on a new Subaru Outback. Plus, every new Subaru comes with a lifetime powertrain warranty. It's the perfect time to check out a new Subaru at Dick Hanna Subaru. Believe it nice. It's time for a deep dive into a shallow topic. That's right. It's Trend BA.
Trend BA we go, but we're going to go ahead with the not-so-nice Trend BA tonight. Let's go ahead reporting on this. Chris Haynes reported earlier today that Blazers legends and currently Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard will be out after being diagnosed with a blood clot in his right calf. Basically the same injury that kept out Victor Wembanyama with the San Antonio Spurs, but he had that in his right shoulder. And team said that they are going to be following him, listening to him day to day, and they're going to do what's best for his health. But right now, he is out indefinitely, currently on blood thinners as well, to try and keep this thing under control, and they will continue with regular testing.
So I was able to talk to Dame for a little bit earlier today. He's not doing great, as to be expected.
Sure.
It's just, it's another thing. They're pretty confident that this will be a thing that's managed well enough. He's 34 years old now. Typically, you would have seen, if this was going to be a bigger issue, you'd see it pop up earlier in life. Like, it's usually one of those situations where if it's like a hereditary issue,
So it's probably not chronic.
no, like with Chris Bosh.
Sure.
Because when it came back the second, so Chris Bosh had it happen to him twice, and that's why he had to shut it down, because at that point in time, you have to be on blood thinners for the rest of your life. And why that matters, and this is mildly graphic, so chill for a second, is if you get cut open, it is a very real problem because you can leak a lot. It can become life-threatening. So as Dame is on blood thinners, you have to be on, I believe, at least a 90-day cycle. So Damian Lillard's season is over. And I think that's normally the minimum. It's usually 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember everything that I had down. But once you clear through and you get through all the protocols and you get all the green flags, you're usually good to go. The problem is if it becomes recurring. And if it happens a second time, the league is after Len Bias, they're not going to have that happen on the floor. So they're just, if you pop for the second one, you're done.
It's just a really scary
it is because
thing
it's something
to
you
be
can control.
diagnosed with.
Yeah.
Right. It's out of your control. And, obviously this is scary when it happens to anybody. And then it's even scarier when it happens to someone who you have this, parasocial relationship with, but an important one. And then someone who was meant
so much.
I don't know if anyone's meant more to the city of Portland over the last 15 years than Damian Lillard has.
You could probably say 30.
I mean, there is a really strong and important connection with this city, and to hear this sort of news, it just kind of stops you in your tracks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it popped up about, I want to say 5 minutes before the press conference, and everybody looked at, because obviously, a lot of us have been there a long time. We covered Dame for a long time, and it was just immediate like, oh, can't say a word on TV, and a lot of blank stares and looking at phones.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
What the hell is actually going on?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out immediately and was like, hey, are you okay? Kind of a deal. Like, I forget the basketball stuff. Like, are you good, man?
Yeah.
Like,
News hit the newsroom, and around maybe 4:45 before the news show actually got on, and then we were able to just kind of like change everything. And you can hear the quietness in our newsroom just because it's not what he's playing or the uniform he is now, but it's about what he did and how just much of a great person he is. So you take off the uniform.
it's not an ACL.
No.
Juju Watkins tears her ACL for
news.
USC last night, and that sucks. But it's like, the process.
Not potentially life-threatening.
No, it doesn't mean like
Yeah,
the process.
it's different.
Blood clot is like, okay, hopefully this thing that's hanging around in his body doesn't dislodge, and
Yeah, it's guesswork.
and that's a scary prognosis.
It
you
is.
know what I mean? Like, I've had
Everything.
a scroll of things happen to me, but there was always like a clear line of delineation.
Sure.
Like, you could, if X, then Y. With this, it's like, well, if this works and does its thing, you're totally fine. But if the if is so much more ubiquitous and just scary, and that's like and you tie in it. It's not just the familial relationship, the familiarness. Like Dame is, even to an extent, still like a heart and soul of the franchise. Like there's, you go into the arena on any given night, the #1 jersey on backs.
I still say, I went out to dinner with my girlfriend last night. We talked about this on the show the other night. People walking around, beautiful night in the city. If I was to walk outside of this restaurant and do man on the street reporting, some real enterprise reporting, I was like, name the best Portland Trailblazer today. I think 75% of people would say Damian Lillard.
Probably.
I'm not going to.
I think they would, because he's
synonymous with the city.
Burned in the brain of this city as what Blazers basketball is. And even beyond that, this is a father. This is someone who has a family. It's just, you hope for the best, and it's just really, really disappointing news.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Sending our prayers and all that we can to Dame and the family, and just hope that he's able to, honestly, forget the basketball, just able to be okay mentally dealing with this. That's something that's probably going to be dealing with
for a matter of months.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
And it'll kind of rest in his mind, too. So wishing him a speedy recovery. Back to our game tonight. We didn't get a chance to talk a little bit about Denny Avdia yet.
I mean, this is what the quote-unquote down game from Denny. He got a couple of threes up late. That dropped his numbers down, finished 6 of 17. I believe he was 6 of 14 until he kind of rushed a few shots, 3 shots there at the end. He was flirting with a triple-double for a lot of the game. I think he had 13, 6, and 6, or 13, 6, and 5 at halftime.
He's been flirting with Lady Triple-Double quite often these days.
And when's he going to get it, man?
And, tonight I thought the Cavs did a really good job of Denny loves to put his head down, get to the rim, and then slow hit the Euro, and then figure out what side he's going to go to. The Cavs did an incredible job of waiting for him.
Yep.
And now this is Kenny Atkinson is one of the best adjustments and like micro scheme stuff coaches in the league. Love him. Like that's how he was able to take a feisty and tough Brooklyn team before Spencer Dinwiddie and Joe Harris and Jared Allen were really anyone, and make them a good, productive team. He knew how to just pull those strings just right. And he very clearly watched the tape and saw Denny Avdia getting downhill and being a problem in the first matchup, and said, stay down. Stay down. I know it's difficult. Stay down. Don't bite on pump fakes. Don't reach. Be very disciplined. And that's what you can do when you've got a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Mobley, and you've got Jared Allen. You've got veteran defenders everywhere. You go, okay, chill, wait, make him make a mistake. Now, he didn't make mistakes, quote unquote, but you took what he wants to do, option 1A, off the table. Now it becomes counter time for Denny. Learning how to go, okay, they're waiting for this and they're going to stay down. I'm not going to stop.
Adjust to the adjustment.
I'm going to go downhill hard, and I'm not going to hit the Euro. I'm going to put my shoulder in his chest and go right through him and finish.
Well, it was white jerseys around him when he did do that, though, Joe.
Yeah, no question. And it was interesting because, obviously the game tape, I think they were better prepared tonight. I do think part of it is also like a pitcher. Like this is the third time through the lineup now with Denny. They're not fooling him with the junk balls anymore. Like they were ready. There were a couple plays where Denny almost Euro'd into a jump ball because they were that prepared for it. And there was almost multiple layers of defense for him. And it seemed as though as the game got on, they were stronger in their defense and they were more ready and more prepared. So even from what we saw in the first quarter, first half, Denny get to the rim a few times, get to the free throw line. Denny, Bill Schonely looking down on you.
It's tough.
You got to make those, bud. You missed your first 4. Come on now.
Yeah, eight missed free throws tonight, and I don't know if that changes the game.
It's nearly the margin.
But how does Cleveland play if Portland's hitting their free throws?
Well, and Denny missed 4 in those first half, and Portland had 19 points in the second quarter. How much better do things look if that just says 23? That deficit at halftime really plays, I think, a big mental part in where you are in the game. And we saw
a 4-point game at the half is like I thought the biggest turning point in the game tonight was not necessarily a 2-point game where Shaden got fouled. It was after the technical foul, because Chauncey or Shaden was getting teed up. That was a foregone conclusion. That gun had been fired. You can't put that round back in the chamber. It was like, well, Chauncey's going to take one for Shaden, or Shaden's going to have a fine. One way or the other, it's happening. but I wanted to see how they responded. Can you get a stop here, come down and score? And even though it should have been, 2-point game, but now you bring it back to 4 and go, we're not going to allow this to break us, to deter us.
We're not going to implode.
And they didn't implode, but they didn't execute well enough. They got a couple good looks, and each time they missed one, Cleveland went, nope, 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 and scored every single time. And I went, yep, that's it.
They did the thing that great teams do, which is capitalize on the mistakes of your opponent in crunch time. And this is a pattern that we've seen. And again, you talk about the maturation, even on this homestand. We saw it against Detroit, New York, I would say to a lesser extent, but we saw it against Boston. We saw it tonight. It's a situation where there are these little stretches and flourishes that you see in the first half, and it happened at the end of the first half with both Boston and Cleveland, where there's these last couple of minutes where what is a 4-point lead swells up to 13 against Boston.
The best teams close quarters.
No question, especially in that period where you're determining the halftime margin. Like, it's such a big mental hurdle. And I just think this is sort of the next part of the development, which is finding ways to win. It sounds harsh to say finding ways to lose, because it's not that. It's the other team capitalizing. It's not like Portland is Benny Hilling the ball out of bounds every single possession.
Sometimes the other team is just better.
And
that's
what happened. And you have to play that much better to beat them, Tyree.
But I also want to say that doesn't mean Portland could have won this game tonight, though. Am I wrong?
No,
not at all.
No,
okay.
It's an execution thing. Like that's really what it came down to. And 9 turnovers Chauncey said it flat out in the postgame. I'll take 9 turnovers every night.
If there's a formula to win games, that's one of the pieces of the equation.
If you told me the Blazers, were plus 10 on the offensive glass, even on assists, had less fouls, had less than 10 turnovers, and had 9 steals,
that's a dub.
Because your shooting variance occurs. That's the thing. It's like you look at the box score tonight, and the Blazers took 12 more shots, 5 more free throws. That's 17 more shooting possessions. You do that on any given night, and you take care of the ball like that, you're winning. Like, you're probably winning 80% of the games.
Another way to look at this is how good Cleveland was from inside the arc.
Oh, they didn't miss.
Portland lost the game by 11. They beat Cleveland by 15 at the 3-point line. So if you wipe that out, if it's an even margin from 3, they lost by 26 inside the 3-point line.
The Cavs hit 5 more shots at the rim, 7 more shots in the short mid-range, which I'm nearly certain Darius Garland was every single one of them on the most insane teardrops.
Yeah.
The one he had over Donovan that basically slammed the door shut.
Gorgeous.
Straight up, straight down, and it was like, I turned to somebody else. That's the shot I want Scoot Henderson to have.
That sucked.
That shot.
It's like someone took a vacuum and sucked all the air out of the building as soon as that happened.
As softly as possible.
Yeah.
So threes are the reason that this team didn't win, is what you're saying.
I mean, if they hit him at a better clip, sure. But and that was the thing that I asked Chauncey about was I think I'm not 100% certain. I have to go back and look, but I'm just going off the top of my head. I'm almost certain it's a season low rim field goal percentage chances, not just finishing, because at the rim they finished 74% of their shots at the rim. The problem was the volume at the rim. And I asked Chauncey, are you okay swapping that volume for more threes? He goes, yeah. I mean, the threes we got tonight, of the 52 threes, how many total threes do you think were like, probably shouldn't have taken that? 4?
Handful.
4, 5 at most?
A handful.
6.
Like, most of their looks tonight were
good.
really good.
Yep.
For sure.
And that's the stuff that you got to live with. And everybody's like, well, you should do this, you should do this. NBA coaches over 82 games, NBA players over 82 games, it is about process. If the process is right and you're getting good looks, but the ball doesn't go in the hoop, you just got to put your head down, trudge through it, and get on to the next.
Well, one of the also things, and Joe mentioned this before you got in the room, was the transition defense was very iffy tonight.
It was very suspect in the first half.
Extremely.
They lost track of Garland a couple different times. And I thought Shea had a really good game. I thought his first half defense was not good. I thought his second half defense was drastically different. There was one play in particular where they were caught basically everybody had switched and Shea was the low man. And it ended up turning into a wide open dunk, I think, for Hunter. I can't remember. It was one of the wings. It might have been Ty Jerome sneaking in. But literally every Blazer on the floor turned to him and just went, dude, What are you doing? Like, Shea was the only one not on the same page, and there was a couple of those moments in the first half, just for the Blazers in general, not losing guys, not matching up in transition. But those are the differences in young team, veteran team. Like, you don't want to see them make those mistakes, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the equation, and we saw it the other night with Boston as well. And look, Portland was not good in transition a lot of both of those games. A lot of open threes from both Cleveland and Boston. It is exacerbated by the fact that these are two of the best passing teams in the NBA, leading to those open looks. So it's a combination of both, right? Both things can be true. Those teams can be really good at ball movement and getting open threes and making them when they need to. And Portland can be a little iffy with transition defense sometimes. I think we talk about foundational pieces, big picture stuff. Something I really want to see Portland improve on next season is, especially after a make, getting back on transition defense. Because there are so many times when the opponent takes advantage of, I don't even know if it's lackadaisical, lack of communication.
Not being locked in. That's what it comes down to. And again,
that's what it feels like, Dan.
It is, and it's young guy stuff. That's really what it comes down to. And they're better at it now than they were to start the season. Do you remember how many times it was like, remember the preseason?
Constantly.
Remember the preseason, how bad it was leading into regular season? We were like, oh, this is a problem.
Not good.
It's few and far between now, but it's the where teams win in close games is on the margins. And I've referenced Chauncey a bunch of times tonight. He's got some good sayings, but it is what it is. Coaches they know those sound bites real well.
They've done it a minute, man.
The most important thing in the change of possession for either team is the first 3 steps, whether it's on offense or defense. Sprint back or sprint forward. If you're the one that takes the first 3 steps the hardest, you're going to capitalize. If you're the first one to take the 3 steps back, you can stop a break. But if you're getting beat both ways, that's when it shows up.
Problem.
Yeah, and again tonight, the transition points, or the fast break points was 8 to 8. It wasn't that bad. But I think what you saw was now there's cross matches, and now you've got guys maybe in a bad switch. Now Donovan's out on Darius because he had to get back, step out to a 3, and somebody else had to go to the low man. Now you're in a weird position on the defensive glass, and maybe now you give an offensive rebound. Like, those are the little things that you say, well, it was a great play by the Cavs. Like, well, the Blazers didn't do the necessary work beforehand. And that's how you win on the margins.
I'm surprised neither of you guys brought up the defense that Scoot was having on Evan Mobley earlier. I'm surprised you guys did not bring that up, because he had some good spots in this game defensively against Evan where I was like, this is an interesting matchup. Maybe you want to pass him off somebody, but he did well. He did very well against him.
And as an aside, I mean, up until the final, was it 2.5, 3 minutes when Anthony came back in the game, they kind of went super small to try to spread him out and knock down some threes. Look at who closed the game. It was Scoot. Scoot had a really good game, 18, 6, and 6. He was a little slow to start the game. Kind of, it seemed like he was floating through the first half. Yeah. Then you look at his second half, and you just kind of look down. And you're like, oh, Scoot had 14, 4, and 3. So 18, 6, and 6 in the game, 14, 4, and 3 in the second half. It shows wasn't there in the first half, was locked the bleep in the second half.
I mean, good gracious. It was one of the fun things that I liked about this game was Scoot Henderson. I'm loving the rise of Scoot Henderson. But you know what I'm also loving? Best Day Brewing. Man, I can't wait to have one after tonight. Hey. What's going on, man?
Well, Tyree, it's Tuesday, right? Does anyone know what day of the week it is?
Yeah, no, I checked my phone 5 minutes ago.
Tuesday. Well, the night's just getting started. One of the most fun nights of the week. Let's keep those good vibes going with Best Day Brewing. It's the fastest growing non-alcoholic craft beer brand. It's the ultimate post-game play. We, all of us, get to enjoy a great beer without worrying about tomorrow. Because, let's face it, shaking off tonight's tough loss, it doesn't need alcohol. Fans make every day your best day. Find your nearest Best Day Brewing retailer at bestdaybrewing.com. Time for Trembier?
I think it's a little Trembier.
A little Trembier.
I mean, me might as well. Listen, we're going to talk about Donovan's crazy behind head coach, Mr. Dan Hurley. They got knocked out of the NCAA tournament by the, Florida Gators a little bit. And I just thought this was funny. Dan Hurley without Donovan Clingan.
Come on, that's mean to Mike.
Really is.
It's mean.
Is he coaching still?
No, he stepped down at Indiana.
Did he?
Yeah, he's had enough of the kids.
Sure.
The NIL world and kind of what's going on out there. There's actually reporting from John Fanta earlier tonight that kids in college in the transfer portal, because it's so crazy, there's no guardrails or anything, are asking for $2 and $3 million. And I'm not talking about the Cooper Flags of the world. I'm talking about good college players, but not. And it's just the wild, wild west. So basically anyone over the age of 50 is like, I'm out. I don't want to deal with this anymore. And I get it.
Seems terrible.
It's insane. It's a young man's game in coaching right now because you've got to massage a lot of egos. You got to write a lot of checks. And it's not as much about the coaching anymore. But, I mean, what a run for Dan Hurley and UConn. I mean, they lost by 2 to number 1 seed in Florida. If they're not the best team in the country, they're the second best team in the country, and they lose by 2 on probably some shaky calls. And Dan Hurley let some folks in the tunnel, those folks being Baylor, who were playing
usually
next.
mild-mannered.
Yes. Often very mild-mannered Dan Hurley.
Sarcasm?
Yeah.
Does he
okay.
enjoy,
right,
I
just
always
making sure.
wonder about these college coaches, because Tom Izzo was up, and he was on mute on the small TV in the sports office, and he just looked like the man's been worn down by life. Like, I'm sure it's really cool.
Oh, they love it, though.
But that's the thing.
They bask in the misery.
But, that is
Interesting.
an interesting programming for a human to set themselves
Oh, yeah.
to.
No,
There's
two settings.
Okay,
No,
go ahead.
There's 2 settings. Winning and abject failure. There's no, in between. And that's
these
why
guys-
that's why they are like that.
But these guys, they hate losing more than they like
yes,
winning.
100%.
So the winning is just a brief respite from the pain that they feel otherwise.
It's like snake anti-venom, but they just continue to have the snake bite them.
Look at this man.
Addiction.
Has this man ever touched a hammock in his life?
No.
Where's his pupils? My God.
Get this man a Best Day Brewing and a
Absolutely.
big, comfortable Adirondack chair.
There you go.
Out in the backyard.
Maybe
Take
Dick
a
and a
Subaru up there to a nice little quiet place
Just
by the
gotta
river.
just gotta do something.
Brandon.
Calm this man down.
I will say this. His players will die for him. Donovan Clingan flat out. He's
Sure.
like, I would do anything for Dan Hurley.
Yeah.
Those guys will die for that coach.
Well, you can't argue with titles.
No, and it's not just that. There's a couple coaches in college basketball. Hurley being one of them, Calipari being another one, Rick Pitino being another one. I have heard stories from former players if you are somebody who's talking sideways about their coach around them, be careful. I'm not kidding. That is like dad. That is unc. That is family.
Think about the age you are when you go through that experience.
It's not just that, though, because there's a lot of coaches that don't have that level of connection with those guys. I mean, it is a ride or die thing.
Didn't you respect your coaches playing sports?
Yeah, look, I had certain coaches, certainly. And I still have, I'm in contact with them now. But, this is more, I think a big part of it is because of the major life-changing decisions and life-changing money that obviously comes along with that. But they are changing families' fortunes quite literally, and that's a big deal. As an aside, as it pertains to UConn and Florida, I did confirm with Donovan Clingan that before the Boston Celtics game, if you watched, zoomed in on the tip-off of the game, Al Horford gave him a little. If you want to go wide here, he gave him a little. Hey, bud. What'd you think about that game? What'd you think about that game?
Al's a Florida guy, by the way.
Tough time. And you can just see Donovan just kind of go, tough. For those wondering, Donovan Clingan, UConn, obviously, and Al Horford, 20 years ago at Florida.
Why you did the 20 years ago?
Because he's still doing it. The man is a machine. 06, 07, back-to-back national titles.
That is very true.
We've gone almost 2/3 of the show and haven't really spent any time on Donovan Clingan.
What a game
and
tonight.
how good he was.
What a game tonight.
He was sensational and an offensive force. There they are.
Torian Green, Portland Trailblazers legends,
There
ladies
they
and gentlemen.
Bro, look at the time. College basketball back then was incredibly fun.
Clean-shaven Joakim Noah
Looks weird.
so weird. Al Horford looks the same.
I was literally about to say, Al, black don't crack.
Goodness gracious.
Love that on you, brother. But Joe,
I love those unis.
It's the baggy Floridas.
So good.
Yeah.
Clean.
But no,
Washington Cougs would not like you saying that.
I mean, look, it's a good-looking jersey. You
we
can
like
say it.
everybody,
Yeah,
Tyree.
it's
That's
true.
why that's the thing about us. We're a welcoming institution.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Come on.
Oh, all right.
Let's go Cougs.
Y'all weren't that nice to Oregon State this year.
Don Don was sensational tonight, man. Like the ability to score in multiple ways, knocking down a couple of threes. The third was halfway down.
Oh, yeah, no.
The third three was halfway down, and he felt comfy taking it too. I was kind of surprised when he missed it, but the battle that he had inside was so fun to watch. Great tweet, Joe. It was sensational, and it's nice to see not even like the points, but the fact that he is more comfortable around the rim, the fact that he had an opponent in a game that was more suited to his style, because Donovan's been chasing around the three-point line for a couple games now, so it was nice to see him get cozy, get in the kitchen, sit down in that paint a little bit, pop out for a three, but also have control of the basketball. This is one of the games that I think, I don't know, maybe over the last 20, that I think he's had the most control over the basketball, where it felt like he was actually getting the ball, doing things with it, being effective, rather than the points sort of accidentally happening. Finishing through contact. That is the best indicator that we have. If Don can continue to do that and finish through contact, I do think the sky's the limit. 18 and 12, 8 offensive rebounds tonight.
I think despite it not being his best box score night, this is the best game of his career so far.
31 minutes.
Love it.
And yes, plays 31 and a half minutes. Never looked lost. Remember, this is Donovan Clingan who fouled out in 12 minutes against the Cavs last time. Got played off the floor immediately. Remember when we went into that road trip, I go, that's the one that I'm circling, because he's going to have to chase Jared Allen and Evan Mobley around, two very different players, and they're going to spread him out with three-point shooting, and he's going to get caught. He didn't get caught tonight. He didn't get caught in between. He was comfortable in his feet when he did switch. Yeah, Garland beat him. Darius Garland is one of the quickest players in the entire NBA. He's going to do that every now and then. But he looked comfortable.
Wet.
He looked confident. Everything he did tonight was control. How many times tonight did you see him grab a rebound and kind of be off balance and leaning Tower of Pisa and kind of stumble and fall and fall away?
He was in control of his body in his basketball game in a way we haven't seen very often.
His feet were under him all night long, and that was what stood out so much to me tonight. He was strong on the glass. He was strong on his finishes. He was strong in the paint, as in like Jared Allen's not the biggest guy, but he's no slouch. Evan Mobley's a lot skinnier, but he gets kind of, it's weird. He's 7 foot and he slides by you. But I thought Donovan all game long had the right attitude, the right mentality, and matched the level of the game. There was the one play where he got called for the foul. What was it? Was it Sam Merrill? He just threw out of the way. And it was basically like, I'm going to get a foul here because I don't like you. And I was like, good for you, Donovan. Like, I look at the board. I'm like, how many fouls does he have? I'm like, perfect. Because remember, he did one. He had what game? It was the Knicks game.
Yep.
He had too many fouls, and he couldn't smack Cat after knocking Jabari down because he came off the bench during that timeout madder than anyone.
You need him in your holster.
Yeah, and I was
you
like,
need to have him.
And I was glad because, like, I think it was the play before somebody got smacked going to the rim, and there was no call. And Donovan kind of took it upon himself to be like, well, you smacked my guy, I'm going to smack you. And he just throws him to the ground and stepped over him. Didn't complain about the foul, knew exactly what it did, and I was like, that's the perfect amount of, like, just nasty, not dirty, nasty. You pair that with the rim protection, stepping out, knocking down a few threes, playing through contact, being physical, and not picking up dumb fouls. The collection of everything tonight, I think this is Donovan's best game of the season.
I'm not going to knock with you. And it felt like he knew that this Blazers team is in a situation where every game, every mindset is win. I don't care who you're playing against. It just felt like he had that more maturity tonight on the court. I felt the matureness coming from Donovan in a game against a top-seeded team who most likely going to go to the NBA Finals. He knew he had to be at his best.
Well, we talk about UConn. This isn't a guy that's used to losing.
No,
this guy wins.
He's lost more in Portland this season alone than he has in the last, 5 years combined.
Probably his whole high school.
That's what I mean,
career,
like high school and college. It was 6 years. Mm-hmm. Do we want to talk playing now?
No, we need to save it because first we have to do the number 10
that's right. I forgot.
in the top 25
top 10, baby.
Blazers of the 21st century. We're up to the top 10. Yeah.
Ooh,
Who is it? Who is it? Are we going to play the video or should I say it? It's
there
Brian Grant. There he is.
BG, baby.
There he is. Now, look.
His
Brian
most
Grant,
infamous moment.
This is
freaking weed.
Fantastic. Anyone who takes on Karl Malone in this method is going to be a Blazer legend. We talk about Denny. We talk about two being the heart and soul of a franchise. Few players have exemplified that the way Brian Grant did when he was in Portland. And he wasn't here for 8 years.
No.
He only played here for a few seasons, but his impact, like a Dame, is long-lasting. Brian Grant could go into any institution in the city of Portland,
and the
red carpet would be rolled out immediately. Yeah. My mom loves Brian Grant. That's where that goes.
There's still an OG
Absolutely.
Brian Grant jersey in my dad's closet. Brian Grant was one of my dad's favorites.
He's that guy.
He was that, and it started here. I remember being at the playoff game, And for those that either weren't old enough or don't remember this, this was look at Dick Pavetta losing it in the background. There was beef brewing between Brian Grant and Karl Malone, and the Blazers in general. And Brian Grant was no slouch, physically an absolute dude. And BG let Malone know what was what, and Malone didn't like it, and he busted Brian Grant's eyebrow open with an elbow. He came out like Willis Reed out of the locker room with the nastiest, ugliest stitches you've ever seen in his eyebrow, back for more. And I will forever remember, it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. The roar that came over that crowd at the Rose Garden was bonkers. I remember I had to cup my hands and scream to my dad sitting next to me in the seat next to me in the 300 level. It was the decibel level. The Blazers have been doing this. I don't know if it's been on TV. They've been showing it in arena. The decibel level in the fourth quarter of these games lately has gotten up to like 108, 109. It had to be like 120, 125. Like, it was jet engine loud in the Rose Garden back then. And Brian Grant was he was the juice. Like, that's the only way I can say it. He had it every single night. And if you were going to try to hard foul one of the Blazers, that's the Rasta Monster was who you were going to have to deal with.
I only saw videos of him, and I saw that infamous video for a while. Unfortunately, guys, I was born in 1997, so I didn't get to see.
That's not unfortunate. That's just the year you were born.
I didn't get to see him do this, though, so it's very unfortunate to me.
But you will see players that we'll never see.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Joke's on you,
Is
everybody.
that how that works?
I'm outliving everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, do y'all see why I hate math now?
What do you think about Danny's mortality? Use the hashtag RCWrapUp. Let us know.
Look, if we're going to death pool, mine's definitely
think.
negative money.
Dude, I'm not. No. Danny, you're going to live till you're 110.
110.
See,
110. I don't know if I want to live that long.
Do y'all see my math? It's so crappy.
I mean, look at this list, man. This is
where
so
we
great.
are right now on our list. Again, if you have issues, not just one Scotty, but two Scottie Pippins made the list. Sorry, producer Dan, I had to call you out. Now, here we go. Now, see, I'm glad I called him out now.
There you go.
Danny Marang just ahead of your mom, which
Yep.
I appreciate. Do we have a top 5 yet, or just that's the 10 through 6 that we have? Well, we're going to have to wait for the last 9 games to unveil the top 9. Guess who's at number 1? You'll have to wait and tune in to find out. Okay.
My mom.
Okay.
Never mind.
It's time.
Danny!
There, I saved myself. There, are you happy?
Mama Smith loves you, by the way.
Thank you, Mama Smith.
All
It
right.
wasn't directed at you. It was the ubiquitous your mom.
All right, there we go. Okay. Joe, take away the show. Do what you got to do, man.
All right, friends. Tonight's loss didn't matter. I know it's nice to win basketball games. Those 4 games, like we said earlier on in the show, that you had with Memphis, Denver, Boston, Cleveland. You got 2 of those. You go 2-2 in those games. So let's just daydream for a moment, okay? Thursday's the game. That is the first must-win game in this little run. You lose on Thursday, it's not mathematically over, but emotionally, spiritually, for all practical reason, it is over.
Cooked.
So let's say the Blazers beat the Kings on Thursday. Guess what? They win the season series with Sacramento, and they would own the tiebreak with Sacramento. Can we get the standings up for a little context here? So this is where things currently sit. Now, if you'll allow yourselves to daydream, we know the tiebreak for 2 teams.
Stop it, Danny.
If 3 teams finish with the same record, the tiebreak is decided by the record among those teams in games against each other.
Yes.
Okay? So let's say the Suns, Kings, and Blazers all finish with a record of 39 and 43. Okay?
Okay.
If Portland beats Sacramento on Thursday, the Blazers would have 5 wins against the Kings and the Suns. Okay?
Yes.
Based on games played so far and games left to play, the Kings and Suns could have no more than 4 wins. So,
Are you sure that tiebreaker is ahead of the conference tiebreaker?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. What a generous question. I am sure. So,
Professor Simons.
what that means is if those 3 teams finish with the same record and Portland beats Sacramento on Thursday, Portland would in fact have the tiebreaker in that scenario.
Over Sacramento.
And Phoenix. Because they would have, trust me, Danny,
I'm not certain that's true.
You don't have to be.
Okay.
I am.
Okay. Okay. I'll go with you. On
I
this.
am.
Oh, I'm just sitting.
Because the tiebreaker order right now, if it's Dallas and Phoenix in a 3-way tie, it would go to Western Conference victories, and the Blazers cannot surpass either of those teams in total Western Conference victories.
More than 2 teams. I'm on the NBA website.
Okay.
More than 2 teams tied. In the case of a tie, regular season records involving 2 or more teams, the following criteria will be utilized in the following order. 1, division winner. Ain't none of these teams winning anything with a division on it. Number 2, better winning percentage in all games among the tied teams. So those are the games that they play against each other. So, again, we're spending a lot of time on a very niche scenario because that's what we do. But this would be, so if Dallas finishes with a 38-44 record, they would have to go 3-6 down the stretch, okay? Portland, in this scenario, would have to go 7-2 down the stretch.
It is X plus 4. Whatever games plus 4.
That is a big ask. So, and then in that scenario also, Sacramento and Phoenix would have to go, what is that, 4-7? So that's it. Portland has to go 7-2. If those 3 teams have the same record, Portland would jump both of them in the standings. Again, it's not the most likely scenario, but it is a scenario. It's another path for Portland to get there. And given how few games are left, given that the things worked out tonight, the teams ahead of Portland lost tonight, so Portland did not lose any ground. I'm not saying it's probable. I'm saying it's possible. And if we look right now, I found a website that looks like it was built in 1997. However, it does have updated data.
Why are we using my year?
And it indicates that Portland has a 4% chance at the 10 seed. Okay?
Yeah.
That sounds about right?
Yeah.
They currently have, that was me earlier. They currently have a 3% chance, 2% chance at the number 1 pick. So, again, we're in this limbo right now.
When they lost to the Celtics
Good job, Joe.
and the Mavs and Suns
let me cook.
both won on the same night, that was basically it.
Right.
It's the simple math, and I mentioned this the other night, it's X plus 4. Whatever Dallas, Phoenix do, if they're X, you have to win 4 more games than that to even have a chance. And with now 9 games remaining, you are running out of real estate to have a plus 4 without a team winning 1 or 2 games. So, and this is why I said the other night, they're mathematically more likely to end up in the top 8 in draft pick odds than they are of making the play-in. And it's actually by a pretty sizable margin. I think their math actually, if I remember right, was like 28% of ending up with a top 8 pick, so the 8th best odds as opposed to the 10th seed, which is pretty drastic when you think about how far
Pull this thing up, though. Let's get excited.
All right. Bring up the Blazer box, good
Let's
people.
get excited.
Okay. This is what we're looking at. The rest of the schedule remaining for our Portland Trail Blazers. And I mean, at least the last 4 against Western Conference opponents. So, in any ways, they can win those last 4. That's going to help with the Western Conference record, right? You got Kings, Knicks, Hawks, Raptors, Bulls, Spurs, Jazz, Warriors, end it Sunday at home. Nice time. Matinee time. I love that. 12 o'clock.
Fellas, what do we got there? We got 7 games. You're telling me that 6-1 is impossible in those 7 games right there?
Yes.
Impossible.
Yes.
You want to go game by game and see if we get a victory? Danny?
I mean,
which one besides New York? Atlanta?
Well, no, honestly, it's not that they're good. It's you're playing at game 78 against the Chicago Bulls at the end of a 5-game road trip when you've crisscrossed the country. They're going to be wiped. They're just going to be wiped. And I don't know if you've noticed, the Bulls have beaten the brakes off of teams lately.
The Bulls are trying.
They want to make the play-in. Weirdly enough, like Kobe White was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week.
Here's the thing.
Look, the Bulls aren't
Chicago
good.
could forfeit games for a week and make the play-in. They're making the play-in.
They're trying to really push in, though.
They're trying to get that home game. Yeah. What they're trying to do. They're trying to stay in that 9 spot.
But, I mean, they're playing incredibly well. It's the end of a 5-game trip at the end of the season after crisscrossing the country. That's a big ask for a team with the average age that's basically 23 years old.
But doesn't that also play into their favor? It's an average age of 23 years old. It's not a bunch of war horses out there. that are being set out to pasture, Danny. We got some young bucks who want to make the play-in.
Okay, fair enough.
Play with me in the sandbox. It's a yes-and situation.
So,
you're a theater guy. You know improv, yes-and.
But look, some of those teams are also
real quick.
playing.
The Blazers have 12 road wins this season. You want them to win 5 in a row. So you want them to nearly get half of their road wins.
Disney movies don't get made for things that are likely. That's not how that works. And guess what?
Kurt Russell ain't coming through that door, and we aren't playing hockey.
I dropped a Rick Pitino, Larry Bird ain't coming through that door earlier tonight, so that's very funny.
Will Denzel come through? Are we going to remember the Blazers?
No.
I just think that the fact that we're even in this scenario does buck or sort of squash down logic and reason. The fact that the Blazers have won 32 games, that we're even we've had a somewhat serious conversation about the play-in for the last 5 to 7 minutes, and we're actually doing that with some legitimacy behind it.
No. There 2 weeks ago, I think it was, we had this show, and I was like, it's a possibility. It was a narrow one. It was probably around 10%, but it was like, okay, they've done enough. The door is not closed, and then they won a couple of games, and you went, okay. This feels real. The second Dallas and Phoenix won those games in the same night, and the Blazers lost, it was over.
That's the thing. Well, I can't get with you there, but I do agree. The thing that changed in the formula was not Portland. It was
and that's
other
the thing.
teams.
And what matters, Joe? The loss column. You can't control your own destiny. The Blazers now have 41 losses. The Kings and the Suns both have 37.